The mentor of mine once said the job of the chair is to set the tone for the meeting, so I've arrived late looking dishevelled, so. Don't use me as a role model. Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. It's our board meeting. It's 6:05. On 19th March 2025. Start by doing roll call.
Want to do roll call? Great. How did we? Yeah. We're just doing roll call.
Oh, yeah.
Airport Heights, which I don't think we. Basher. I don't think I've seen. Can you guys hear us online? I should check that. Thumbs up from anyone. Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Yes.
Thank you, Bayshore. Bear Valley.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Campbell Park.
I'm here.
Oh, I skipped Birchwood, but I know they're not here. Downtown. I don't believe so. Eagle River.
Eagle River's here.
Thank you. Eagle River Valley.
Yep, we're here.
Alex, great. Fairview. Don't believe so. Girdwood.
Yes.
Glen Alps. I don't believe so. Government Hill.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Hillside.
I'm here.
Great. Huffman O'Malley doesn't have a voice, but I do see Jason here. Midtown. I see she's here. We see Chris on the video. Mountain View.
Yes.
Welcome. Do you want to introduce yourself?
My name is Charlie Welch and here to represent Longview.
Awesome.
Welcome. What's going on with that?
North Star. I don't believe I saw that. Great. Northeast.
Here.
Thank you. Old Seward Ocean View.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Rabbit Creek.
Present.
Thank you. Rogers Park. Okay, no Rogers Park yet. Russian Jack.
Here.
Thank you. Sand Lake, not present. Scenic Foothills, not present. South Edition.
Here.
Thank you. South Fork, not present. Spenard, not present. Taku Campbell.
Present.
Thanks, Candy. Tudor, not present. Turnigan.
Present.
Thank you. Turnigan Arm.
Present.
Thank you. And University Area, I don't believe it's present. Amazing. We do have 4.
Yeah, how many do you have?
Okay,
You get Midtown by any chance? I was on the
I
phone.
did. I saw you, so I just gave you a present.
Thank you. I'll audio myself away from you now.
Thank you. We're moving to consent agenda, so I would entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Kathy.
Second.
Thank you, Brittany. Any discussion or dissent? If not, tonight's agenda is approved. Also entertain a motion to approve the minutes from last month's meeting on February the 19th.
I'm not gonna do this one.
So,
You're not gonna do this one. Then you do this one because it's a consent. agenda.
oh, yeah, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Consent agenda. I'm learning.
Ah, you're good.
So with no objection, we'll do.
No objection.
Okay. So we will consider both the minutes and the agenda approved unless I hear an objection. And not, okay, done.
Okay.
Now we'll move on to,
Now it's my turn.
now we can move on to the next topic, number 3.
I'm gonna go a tiny bit off script. I did want to mention to community councils. You may be aware that the volcano Mount Spur is figuring out what it wants to do. In the event of an eruption, the Federation office will go fully remote and we'll be ready to help all community councils. We really advise in the event of eruption that you guys go fully remote. There's no reason to risk anybody's health or safety. We're gonna reach out to the municipality and see if we can get some resources to send around so people can prepare themselves. And if there's an eruption and there's emergency emails going out with information, we will use part of our digital outreach process, which allows for emergency communications and be doing more outreach via our email listservs to people to give them updates on what's going on and services and all of that kind of stuff. So if you have any questions about how to prepare your council for a meeting in the event of an election, please let us know, and we're happy to help facilitate anything you might need with Zooms. If you're not familiar or you need to get going last minute, just let us know. So that was just a quick minute on volcanoes. I wanted to remind everyone, National Volunteer Month through Points of Light. We're spending April recognizing extraordinary volunteers from community councils. In the board packet is a little briefer. I haven't gotten any amazing volunteers. That doesn't mean that there isn't still time. You have till March 30th to send us somebody in your council who you think's worth recognizing. That's kind of it. I'm gonna recognize University Area Delegate Steve Callahan.
Just turning in community council at our March meeting did select somebody. I just haven't submitted the name yet.
I am so excited. I'm really excited to recognize the members of your councils who are doing good work and just kind of celebrate them. I think I talked about that at the summit as well, so this is just part of that. Yeah, if you have questions, just reach out. I'm happy, but it's very simple. I'm not trying to overthink it with this. And then the last thing to talk about is the FCC website. We're very excited. It is set to launch April 16th. So I have a firm date and I will make it happen come hell or high water. We have a couple of benchmarks prior to the website being launched. In the next week, we'll be reaching out to council presidents to set up meetings with councils that are interested in starting the process of updating their website early. Maybe we've had a couple councils recognize that their website's out of date and they want to do some updating early. They want to be ready for the new website to come. They want to talk about layout and such. So we're going to start looking at what the website looks like now, what changes they'd like to see, whether we're going to do it or whether they're going to do it, and start to facilitate that process. And then we're going to do a delegates walkthrough of the website on March 27th via Zoom. I'll be sending out a link for that to register. That'll be a chance for you guys to see it. It will still be a rough form because it won't be launched yet. And I just want to have everyone recognize that the website is a living resource and we are updating it so often. It's almost hard for the tech people to stop us long enough for us to move all the documents over because I never am not uploading information to it. So that being said, when you see the launch, it may not be 100% of what you want. We will continue to update it. We will still have the old website cached, so nothing will get lost even when we transition over. And so if you're like, we really need this information up there, we will get it up there and we'll work with you on getting it over. But we just appreciate the patience as we try to figure it out. All of the agendas, minutes, and resolutions will absolutely be there upon transition. Some of the committee pages or other information we may still be finessing as we roll over, so we just appreciate your patience. We'll do 2 trainings, one before lunch and one after lunch. We'll also have documents and how-to videos. And depending on like if we need more, we will keep training as often as people need if they're interested on doing the edits on the back end. I would say our recommendation to the councils is that you guys select one person who is your go-to website edit person. That person communicates with me. I'm the one, I like train them on how to use the website. And then if you guys have changes you want to make, it goes through that person, because website by committee is a slow a little bit. So I really suggest having a person who is like the contact. It can be you, it can be the president. It will be the president by default, but for a lot of councils, they have like some person who's ready to like take that on, and we will connect with that person. But having a single solitary contact will make it much more efficient. So that's what we're recommending for people. Are there questions? I love it.
I did see on the FCC website, it's black and white, the heading, whatever the term is used. A vibrant, organization, I feel like black and white is kind of odd.
On the FCC webpage
Yeah.
with the logo, yeah. I put that on there because I wanted our logo on there, but the way the website's built now, it's not gonna look like that. I will say, the new website won't look like that. I agree with you. I just really wanted to put our logo and that's kind of how it looked up and it wasn't great. But I
It
hear
would be very appropriate for other entities. It looks nice.
Yeah.
I don't get the council vibe from it.
totally, yeah, I hear you. That is not what the new website would look like, I promise. I will be sad. Are there any questions on the Zoom about the website? Recognizing that we got Spenard Community Council who joined, and I'm not sure if Penny is part of the council.
You're not sure of what?
Oh, no, not you, Candy.
Okay.
I think that's all my bit.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So now move on to the next topic, which is kind of follow up from our, well, really our Saturday, summit at ABU on vision through action. See a few people who were at that event on Saturday. So I thought it was a really great event. It was really good to sort of sit back. So it was great to sort of have the opportunity to sort of think big picture, rather than sort of in these meetings or when we're doing it with council business. It was great as well to have a facilitator in Heather, who sort of understands the issues around nonprofits and the problems that nonprofits have. And I think that was, again, I found that extremely helpful process. I don't think I have anything specific in terms of follow-up actions. Well, actually, we do have one later on in the final. I don't have a lot of specific things to say on that, but I'd just like to give the opportunity to other people who attended, just to share a flavour of what we went through on Saturday. And then I pass it on to you.
Saturday.
And Sunday. Oh, okay.
I
I was
didn't
thinking-
break it.
Okay, so we can talk about both days then.
Yeah.
I thought because we were in the board meeting, we skipped to 4 o'clock.
I didn't wanna. Drag that.
Okay. So if anyone who was there wants to just give a general sense of what we were doing on both days. John?
I thought it was very helpful. I think sometimes it's very difficult to manage community councils, and I think in that group setting, that feeling is shared by a lot of different people, and so a lot of the speakers help you learn tools to manage, discussions and preparations and things like that, and I found it very, very helpful, and it was great. Thank you.
I just really appreciate all the work that was put into it. It clearly was well organized and thoughtful. And on Saturday, I did kind of get blown away by when we had to think about 15 to 20 years from now what the vision of FCC was. I can barely think beyond tomorrow, so but for younger ones, it's it was good. But got a lot of both days.
Were there any, probably more on the Sunday in terms of speakers, was there any particular highlights or anything people are interested in perhaps going further into in the future? Taking a sort of deeper dive into some of these topics. So we had on Sunday, we had
Bylaws,
bylaws,
Robert's
Robert's
rules,
rules,
ethics,
and then ethics,
and then
the
strategic planning and
Yeah.
facilitation.
Well, if I may, it's clear that most, if not all, the councils kind of had some common themes and thoughts as far as generating younger people to get involved in councils and how difficult that is. And I don't know if we come up with a really strategic way to address that, but at least we know we have some common things we maybe should work on. Then they can think about the 15 to 20 years.
for all of the years I've found working in the councils, when you have some issue that is real disturbing for a lot of people, that's when you can bring in membership that goes, oh, I can make a difference and I can be involved. It's not the best way, unfortunately, but it's it's one of the ways it does end up happening. I do think if there's a way we can do some kind of a survey, that would be, we can use it for inform and also for potential issues that we would be able to utilize. But it takes money.
That was feedback from the attendees that wanting some sort of citywide notification, whether it's on the tax bill or us being funded enough to send out our own from the federation, like, hi, this is the community council you live in, was of importance, and I kind of talked about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think I agree. One of the themes, from where I am, we're over in the distance and we tend to pay more attention to ourselves sometimes than the rest of the community. And it was really interesting to hear lots of different councils really come up with very similar themes. It was the problems of communication both within the council and across that community, and community information coming in and disseminate how you explain these very complex topics. I thought it was very clear that we all are in the same space and really have the same problem. So I think one of the things I took away was, I think as we go forward, the FCC definitely has a role in helping the communication between councils and providing resources for backup, obviously to the councils themselves. But I think there's kind of this networking effect as well that we see here today, and we see at the board meetings. But more of that while going would probably be excellent.
The number one.
I was going to just see if there's some reason follow-up action.
The number one thing that people got from the summit on both day 1 and day 2 was collaboration and networking. Just being in a room with other people doing the same work was really helpful, which is why I always encourage this space to, come participate and be here, because just being here and hearing the updates does help. Talking with each other afterwards and before, I find you guys have a lot of really interesting conversation. So that's something where like you can do all sorts of online training, but we really can't replace that like camaraderie and group effort that you feel being in a space with people who are doing the same work as you. I did speak with Daryl already. So he's on board with us. This being part of our training grant every year is having some sort of annual summit. We talked about maybe changing the timing so that we can get with different groups, like not everybody's going to be available in different months or different time frames. So it probably won't be like the same weekend every year. That way we can reach everybody as there's transitions, but essentially something like this will occur every year because it really seemed beneficial for people. And then I did on the last page of the board packet put in a link if you're clicking on it, or a QR code if you're having it in person, with our website page, which has all the documents from that day, as well as Terrence Kelly, who did the ethics talk, sent me a long list of relevant and not so relevant information. But for anybody that's interested in that, he included a bunch of stuff, and so that's all on our website as well. Our hope is next year to maybe have some recordings from it that are quality so that people can watch them afterwards. But I can't speak enough of how much being in person, and maybe for those of you who were there, like being there in person, not watching recording, not joining on the Zoom, is so beneficial. Having those conversations, having those like tete-a-tetes to the side, little conversations, speaking to the speaker, exchanging information. I really saw the like blossoming there, so.
So and I think a topic that came up that a lot of us face is transition. Who's gonna come into our council and take over? And having all the resources here and understanding how you can use them, you can take, hey, it's not that difficult, come on in, you've got the FCC to help you with the technical stuff or with, sending out notices or things like that. There's a lot, I think, that the average member of a community council doesn't see. And so it can be intimidating to try and get people to volunteer to, take on roles, but having the FCC behind them, I think maybe will give newer people more confidence. Oh, it's not that burdensome.
Yeah.
And I think these meetings really help.
Thank you.
Those graphic summaries that we've done on Sunday, are they also available on the?
They will be once they're finalized, so in the second section, Lee was there doing, from Postmarks was there doing graphic processing, and so the takeaways from some of those big posters that you responded to, I'll publish those on the website once they're finalized, with some of the big takeaways and the commonalities between councils. It's cool to see, have a visual note taking as part of that as well.
Thank you, everybody. Again, thank you for those.
I should say, our strategic plan and the notes from Heather will come and we'll talk about them likely in the April meeting. Yeah. Oh, yeah, downtown representative Barbara Roberts.
Any other follow-up on this summit? Okay, we will move on to next discussion topic, which is procedure for mailings. You want to introduce this? Okay, I will start. So we have a small amount of budget to do sort of postal mailers to mail things around.
$3,500.
Yeah, $3,500, which is both for the printing and for the distribution. Can you remind me again the approximate cost of
a mailer is about $1.25 for like a color postcard, and then I think it's like under $1 for a black and white on like a colored paper.
Okay, so that's about 2,000 to 3,000, 2,000 to 4,000, depending on the 2,000 to 4,000 mailers.
Which is way more than
Oh,
most councils, I should say.
What are we doing now?
Well, we haven't, that's what we're going to discuss. So we have a budget to provide, both produce the mailers and to send them out. So these are things that appear in the mail. The correct thing is, obviously not all councils can use that at a given time. We only had enough for depending, 3,000 to 4,000. And if you were to send it to every resident across all community councils, it's can't remember what the number is. Or something. So we obviously have a lot less than that. We were thinking about how to make this a fair process. And there's a couple of ideas. One of them is to have kind of a just first come, first serve. As soon as the money runs out, it stops. The other idea is to have kind of is to sort of have a number of councils who have first refusal, and then after, you have a couple of years where you can't use this mailer facility. In the future, we may want to try and increase our budget for this. It might be that they're not actually that useful. So what we're trying to do is just get some feedback from this group as to what.
Yeah, so specifically because of the community council boundary changes, the idea from the executive board was to use the money to notify people whose boundaries have changed. This would be a one-off, and that's why it's coming to the board, because it's not within our normal procedure is to just rotate. So this would be an exception to the procedure, and we wanted to see if there was appetite at the board for this one-off where we help notify new residents, particularly because we are losing 2 community councils that are not losing, but they're being absorbed. So helping those people and the people who are in change areas be notified that they might have a new council because they're at maybe more of a disadvantage than other groups.
Thank you for explaining my idea better.
Your
than I
idea,
would.
that's, yeah.
That was 2 weeks ago. So much has changed since then. I think I'm interested generally about how people how people would use this facility, but yes, we did have that discussion about
This is a specific.
if we were going to target it, if we had one primary use, we thought people who's changing councils would be a good use. There are some technical questions about how we do that. But that's probably around about the right size as well. So yeah, start with Steve.
What if you just absorb the cost of postage? What's your,
If like the FCC absorbed the cost, postage and printing or just postage?
just postage?
We could do that. I don't know at this point what the number of people that are gonna be affected by the boundary change, so I'd have to go back to planning and see if we can't get some numbers from them and kind of map it out from there. There probably would be some assumed cost. I imagine that 3,500 does not get us very far, to be honest. Like that's like North Star or Scenic Foothills. I'm talking a really small, maybe Tudor, the really small councils. So there might be some assumed cost there if we are trying to target like all of Tudor. Portage Valley is like 25 residents, but they all share one PO box, right? But then there's like small areas all over the city that I imagine it would eat up a significant portion of our costs. It definitely, if you're looking to extend beyond that, like maybe offer also mailer to a council, I think that would be probably outside. It would be digging into our reserves essentially. So any overage would dig into our reserves, which we don't have a policy for, but that's what it would do.
Yeah, what's the cost for you to mail out those kind of, do you have the nonprofit permit?
Yeah, the postage itself, I don't know what the rate is, but like I said, it's about $1 for like a postcard, double-sided black and white on color, and then it's like $1.25, including postage and printing for the like a double-sided color printed one. So like the ones you guys sent out for Fish Creek, double-sided color, it's gonna be cheaper if we just do black and white on say like colored paper.
There's also a little bit of a chicken.
So
in it.
about $1.
Dollar and a bit.
Postage and printing.
What about just postage?
I think it's like 10 or 20 cents. Yeah, it's not high.
Yeah, what if we could get someone else to do the printing?
Well, if we could get somebody else to do the printing, we'd probably send out motivators.
Okay, okay.
You have a source for that, you have to go.
Well, there might,
Postcard stamp is 56 cents, and we get,
Happen to know this right now.
we do get the nonprofit bulk mailer
Okay,
for that. Yeah,
right.
So
we have a question
Yeah,
here and a
question
question
from-
online.
Candy and then John. Candy, go ahead.
Well, oh, I was gonna ask, I know when I first moved into Taco Campbell, I received a notification from, neighborhood newsletter regarding that notifying me of the area that I moved into and kind of a welcome, that kind of thing. Is there a chance we could use that?
I'm gonna guess that newsletter was us, and that it was just well timed that when you moved in, Taco Campbell was likely in the rotation at that point, and you got a well-timed newsletter. It's not us, as far as I'm aware, it's not a separate resource, it's us. So it's the funds that we're talking about.
Unless it was some other group.
Yeah, I
No,
wouldn't
there's
know, but I'm gonna guess a neighborhood thing was Neighbors to Neighbors was us
The
for a
neighbor-
long time.
The neighbor, no, this is a national newsletter
Oh.
called,
If you can send it to me,
okay,
or send me a photo of it, I would be happy to pursue that as an option. But I think I just need
Okay.
more information so we can connect after the meeting.
We're very happy to
Okay.
use other people's resources as well.
the other
John,
thing I
yeah.
wanted to say
Oh, sorry,
is,
go ahead.
the other thing I wanted to say is that if it comes down to us having to print something, I have in my desk, my printer plan, I'm on an ink plan, so I can do like, right now, I think my plan is for 300 copies a month. And if I don't use my 300, then it builds up from the previous month. So I would be willing to do, to print, if you guys want to buy me the paper. And I know, what is it? Oh, I can't think of it.
I
Avery.
think that's,
has-
right. I think that's a
Avery
really good.
has postcards.
Yeah, that's actually, just your comment has triggered a bunch of other thoughts here as well. I think there definitely seems to be more flexibility in what we could use for printing rather than service we've used before. One comment I was going to make is there's a little bit of a chicken and egg situation here. There's some work in identifying which areas have changed and getting all the addresses, both the physical addresses and in some cases the mailing addresses, the ownerships. So it would be good to get a sense of whether the body FCC board is happy with the idea of targeting this for our project, and then we can work out what it costs, and then we can either go ahead with it or see if that would leave any money for any other mailers this year. So
John.
yeah, John.
Could I,
So
sorry,
Pamela, we'll do you next.
I'm gonna try to find my hand. Thank you.
Thank you. John, go ahead.
we've used in the past, the Federation of Community Councils postage and mailing list to send out flyers for special meetings. That has been very successful, but we've only used it occasionally. It's not something that's routine, but we had a couple of large neighborhood workshops on developing the neighborhood plan.
Right.
And we would print out our flyers, but use the FCC's mailing list and postage
Yeah.
to distribute. And it was very successful. We got a lot of feedback from it. And I would hope that other councils, if they had something really important, could use a resource that you would have, and we wouldn't just use it for routine notifications. I think it's something special that's really important sometimes, but you can't always predict what that's going to be.
Right.
Yeah,
So, first of all, so the budget that you have, is it for the year? Are you looking, and is that something that's continuous? And I'm asking for a couple of reasons. One, so that you know what the dollar amount is. But for the other point is, I think you should have a list of priorities of how you would use that. So would it be something, as in this case, that's significant for a smaller group of a smaller batch? Or are there things that for the whole council that would be useful? And then to try to parse those things out. I'm thinking mostly when we talked about, now it went in my head now, it was this weekend, you guys. Looking at the councils being able to collectively do something, or by area do something. So I would look at what all of those possibilities are and then look at the dollar amount that you have.
Yeah, and so we have a standing policy from 2017 where councils may request a bulk postal outreach mailing once every 3 or more years. And it's dependent on funding, and then there's some like processes to it. So the question I think Mike has is there a motion from the body to allow suspension of this policy for this year to allow us to use the funds to notify people whose councils have changed? Or would we rather continue with the current policy as is?
I'll move. I move to, suspend the current policy to,
We'll discuss after the motion.
I couldn't follow you, Candy, sorry, if you repeat that, please.
I said, I make a motion that we suspend the current, the policy and, just for this year, for this particular
Okay,
project.
thank you. Thank you. Do I hear a second? Thank you very much. Okay, now we can go into any more fine detail of discussion.
Well, I was just curious, and I think it's a really, really good use. Well, I think that's a great idea. But when I envision a postcard, say, 4x6, how would you really effectively communicate the changed boundaries? Because really a map would be visually, it would catch people's attention when it came in the mail. And you really couldn't do that very effectively with such a small medium size.
I think it would be probably more text-based. Now, this is just off the top of my head because I haven't put too much thought to it, but more the extent of like, due to the 10-year council boundary review, we change, like you are now in a new community council, maybe a reference to like definitely a QR code to our website, like a QR code to find your council, like it would be more engaged of like in the vein of join your community council, but for the purposes of the mailer, like we're notifying you that you've moved councils. And so I think some sort of graphic is definitely relevant, like doing what we can to make it eye-catching. But I probably wouldn't get into the specifics of that. I would just say you are now in this council. I wouldn't put like the boundary maps, because I imagine people would be like, what am I looking at without context? But having some sort of reference maybe to like, if you have questions about why your boundary moved, go to, the planning website with all of the details where you can read lots of Tom Davis reports.
And these would go to council lists versus broad entire residential.
It would probably go to raw residential.
Well, a lot of people wouldn't even have a clue what a community council is.
Yeah.
So you
that's
need
not-
to start at that step and work your way down.
Well, there is an opportunity for people who've moved. That's an event which may.
Right, like,
attract some
yeah,
interest.
that's what I'm saying.
If you want to know more about community councils, like, yeah, we would address it in a sense of like the assumption that they don't know what a community council is, that they didn't know that they were in a boundary, like. But I think we would use this as a reason to kind of kick off that education of like, hey, did you know you've moved? Guess what?
Yeah, I love it.
Could we, I think, if we could do a QRS code, we could put, like a link to the FCC for more information.
Yep.
Or.
Yep.
Kind of just do a QRS on there that, so sometimes that actually generates some interest. And then we could put a link to more information about what all has happened and how they can go about asking if they're interested to find out about their community council or how to get involved, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that sounds right, like what we're talking about.
Kathy?
Yeah, Kevin else.
I don't remember when it's going before the assembly, but with as far past as it is, you'll want to watch the timing and potentially do it in the fall.
Yes,
Right.
not urgent.
Yeah, well, you won't want to do it during the summer.
We're bringing this now,
Right.
too, because we've had a couple councils ask if they can use the mailer. And so we wanted, because this was an idea specific around the boundary, we didn't want to tell them no without bringing it to the body.
Kevin Fine, Campbell Park, what's your source of the addresses or where you go? Is it coming from our list that exists already? Or are you trying to kind of hit so that we see new people?
New people, so our list, the list we maintain is just emails, like some people do put in their addresses, but I don't really maintain that portion of it. We get the mailer list, like that John has done, that Fish Creek does, from the planning department. They have a GIS that they send us regularly of like, hey, here are all the relevant addresses and their owners. In addition, we've talked a bit as part of that of like, how do we get more than just property owners, trying to make sure that we target renters, and we talked about different ways that we could get that information as well. So we would probably work with planning, combine those lists and try to get as many people in those areas as possible.
Follow. Because we're in discussion of the motion to potentially suspend the rules, right?
Right.
And so, I'm fine, because I think, I'm kind of belief that, all publicity is good publicity if we're out there trying to get it. But in the case where we're dealing with money that normally rotates and there's not enough to go around, I think there needs to be a bit of a tracking of to which councils the majority of the money went into.
Yeah, so we tried.
Because some of the councils that need it the most aren't gonna get any.
You're totally right. We went back through the records. We could only get a couple years worth of records. I will politely say that Spenard is on pause for like the next, and
I was gonna ask, like, did we pay for the fish, like, no, somebody else.
No.
Yeah,
Bernard does not need this.
I think it was more of a matter of you guys were the only ones asking, so
Oh.
a staff was saying yes. What I will say is moving forward, we will definitely keep very meticulous records about what is sent and who is sent to and all of that. I can't speak for predecessors, and so not all of that records were maintained. I can't go back 10 years and say like, this is all the councils it was sent to. I only have some of that
But it was
information.
probably Spenard.
Stop this.
I do love our marriage.
Over a decade. And it was Bernard and Kernigan were big.
We're not picking, it's not meant to pick anybody.
We're not
but-
picking anybody.
But it's the idea that
We're glad you made use of it.
if you're suspending a rule every few years and don't have all the records, whatever, you're definitely gonna taint it heavy one way or the other. Now, maybe
So we
fine.
will,
I think
so we will going forwards, we'll keep a record and make sure we know where it's being spent.
It does seem though that there is a goal of this body to move towards figuring out a mailer system that's larger, understanding that mailers do work and that we do want to notify the public. And so whether we're bringing in donations or getting grants or doing something, I think the idea is like, this pot is small right now, but hopefully when we get to the next boundary review, it's a bigger pot and we're having a different discussion.
Thanks.
Steve, go ahead.
One thing that we used to do back in the day when we got to send mailers out there when community councils, for prior reasons, we would get printed by a third party. And then put bulk mail permit on the mail, and bring it to the Federation, and we reimburse you for the postage. So there's no cost to anybody except the project, no matter the project, but.
Yeah.
So possibly work something like that, we have to.
Yeah, there's no projects though.
Well, it's
project.
I would love to do that and also charge a nominal fee for use of it, in which we're bringing in a little funding.
Well, the project would be basically like if you were doing a park project.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Then the
That is
Parks and
something
Rec,
to talk
That's
about.
a, yeah, we did.
Cut a check.
No, we talked about that,
give you the money.
about
to
some
do
different ways to
Yeah.
bring in some funds for this purpose.
What services will we provide?
Yeah,
But the money came out of the project budget for the park, that came from different pot of money.
yeah,
The Federation, all we're doing is basically using your mailing list and your bulk permit.
So what we will, just to. Okay, one more point on it, the sort of, the plan would be if this passes and we move away from our normal policy this year. We'll get the information from the planning department, we're already giving all the jobs. About all the areas that have moved, and then we'll work out what that's actually going to cost.
Right.
And if it's less than the budget we have, then obviously that then becomes available for other towns. Right. My expectation is it will not be less.
Well, we're potentially gonna earn the budget.
Yeah, but we're likely to spend all of that and maybe even go a little bit beyond, but we have to, there's some work to get to the point of knowing what the cost is, so. By suspending the rules, it gives us the, it gives us the incentive to invest that time to work out what the real cost is.
Just put a fine line on, the assembly hasn't approved these changes.
No, this will not be done until after.
Yeah.
the
Fall
assembly
is,
is approved.
fall is a great
Yeah,
idea, so that we're doing it when councils are meeting.
Yeah.
Do we know when that's going before the assembly? Maybe we'll ask that.
I don't at this point.
We'll ask that. We don't have,
I would ask the planning director.
May.
Well, she's-
Who's at the back of the room?
The chair will look here.
I
So
do
the
that,
ways of the assembly can be mysterious.
as a side note, I do know that Tom wants to bring it before CEDC and do a work session, so we'll have plenty of notice before it goes before assembly, and I will keep you all updated. You know, I'm quite invested in this process.
Okay,
You wanna vote?
is there any more discussion? If not, then I would ask, is there any objection to changing our policy or temporarily suspending our policy so we can use the Leyland funds to focus on areas that are locations that are changing boundaries?
I have a question, and you said that, do we have an end time? Is that?
When the money has to be spent?
No, do we have a when we're unsuspending this policy?
Well, it would be for the course of this year. If we end up spending less, if the cost is less than the 3,500 we have budgeted, the rest will become available to councils.
Okay.
I think our expectation at the moment is that what we've got to do more than the budget.
Okay, so I get this right, it's a motion
It's a motion
to suspend
to suspend the policy
the bulk mailing policy
for 2024.
for 2025. And if funds remain, they would go back for the use.
That's right.
The policy would be unsuspended.
Well, it would apply to any funds that are available that we don't spend on this project. Yes, so we
Right.
follow the policy.
Right, okay.
Yeah. Okay, there was a motion, it was seconded. Any further questions or discussions? And not seeing any, so again, if I'll ask for consent, so is there any objection to this motion?
We can count if we need to.
I am not seeing any, so we have now suspended that policy for the rest of this year. Thank you. Well, when we go through, when the boundary is finally decided, we'll inform the body, and keep everyone up to date. Okay, thank you.
Note that there's somebody at the front door that is wanting to get in.
Thanks, Bob, we got him in.
We'll now go on to discussion topic number 6, also from the E committee, which is setting up a bylaws committee. So I'll introduce this briefly. One of the things that came up, well, it's been around for a while, is some of our bylaws need some revision. There was discussion on Saturday in particular about some of the issues we have in terms of the structure of the FCC, the difficulty sometimes in voting 37 caps. So what we'd like to do is set up is basically have a committee of a small number of people to sort of look at these issues and try and come up with some proposals. And then when we come up with proposals, we'll then put it to the whole body and potentially update the bylaws that way. So what we're really doing is, I think hopefully the goals are fairly clear. To look across all of our bylaws, but probably focus on some of the structural ones, and just come up with some suggestions and some alternatives, come up with to a point where they're at least practical, and then discuss them bring it back to the full body and discuss the options there. So is there anything you'd like to add?
Please volunteer.
So we would like some volunteers. So now is your opportunity to volunteer if you wish. Sarah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What is the estimated time commitment of this project? Is it a forever committee? Is it we need this by May? Is it, we need this by April?
You can speak to that. I've got my opinion now. This is really
I would say the bylaw update is my primary goal for this organization because it's instrumental in us moving forward. So I would say, well, any good functioning nonprofit, repeating 4 acres words back to you guys, has a governance committee to ensure, and that part of that would be bylaws. In this case, like, I'm willing to take what I can get. So if you're a short-term member, you're a short-term member.
Yeah, I mean, it is possible, I guess, to leave it. My guess is this is probably a commitment at least through the quality through this year. But I don't think we would, if we focus on making a set of important changes to the bylaws, I think this is a maximum of 2025 commitment. I think we can definitely make significant progress in that time. Sorry, I'm being quiet again. So yeah, I think my expectation is this would be a committee we would be working through probably full May form, but not beyond that on this set of issues. I think longer term, one of the things this may do is set up a long-term governance committee, in which case we would have people serve on that probably for longer. But this initially would be ad hoc.
Good question.
Annie. Go ahead, Katie.
Oh, yeah, I just, so this is the bylaw committee that we're talking about?
Yes, setting up a bylaws committee.
Okay, I'd like to be on it.
Thank you.
Another question that you might not have the answer to yet. What other amazing committees are coming down the pike? So one could make sure that they don't overcommit themselves. And
We have no standing committees other than the executive committee. We would love committees. If you just are interested in anything at all, Evan and I actually are on a outreach committee that is very ad hoc and just whenever we're available. So if you have something that you're interested in, honestly, just call up.
I love many things, but not all at the same time.
Yes.
We're one of the things.
Caitlin Jackson is also interested.
Excellent, thank you.
And we can meet virtually. I know a lot of you, that's totally fine. I'm sure Mike would love not to drive up.
Yes. Or we can have in Goodwood in person, I don't know. Whichever is easiest for me. Okay, so that's number 9. So what?
Sorry, really quick, repeating the proposed deadline, it is, I would say as soon as possible, but end of the year is probably realistic by the time we get everything in front of the body and passed.
I can probably also volunteer, yes.
Okay,
No,
thank you.
I'm gonna take out the travel pay. I volunteer.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, volunteers.
And that's Evan, and I also have Paul from Chikia.
Okay, excellent, thank you, everyone. So,
You're sharing it, right?
and I'm sharing it, yeah.
I have a quick question.
Is there any documentation that would guide the FCC bylaws, what it can have in it, what it can't have in it, but just nonprofit?
Yeah,
Is that kind of
it's a nonprofit, so we don't follow the same rules code. We don't have to do the same things as
right?
we have what's required for our grants. But as long as we include everything that's currently in our bylaws, we'll be good for the grants.
Okay.
And then our strategic plan, when that's adopted, or our core values or core purpose, that would be the other guiding documents.
So the intent here would be we'll have an initial meeting and then we'll probably start doing the work more seriously once the strategic plan is released. The full draft of the strategic plan is available, which is April. So, okay, so I don't think we need to vote on this. We're taking volunteers and I think all your names have been taken and there will be contact in the next few days. Next week, definitely, within next week. We'll schedule an initial meeting to set up structure. Okay, I think that's all the things we had on the main agenda. So we'll just move to comment period. Okay, right. Anyone like to make any other comments? If not, then we can move on to our coalition meeting. I won't stop the meeting and restart. We'll just move on to the second part. Okay, so welcome to the and we change our hats. Welcome to the community council part of the Federation of Community Council. I think we'll just jump straight into our education topic, which is council updates.
Starting with Birdwood.
Oh, yeah, right. Big news from Goodwood is we, after, depending how you count, somewhere between 7 and 20 years, we finally got our new comprehensive plan passed yesterday evening. In the Assembly. And I thought we may have a few minutes between meetings, so I actually have the remainder of a cake we had to celebrate it outside, which I was going to bring in to share with the people in the room. Unfortunately, I can't do it virtually online, but if I get an opportunity, I'll hand over the chair and go and grab the cake so we can have that afterwards. That's our big thing. We have several other things going on as well at the moment, but that's probably our main headline.
Great. Do you want to hand it Evan and while we possibly?
Yeah, actually, take over. So you take over here. Go and get some cake.
There's no one out, so next is Government Health. You want to, Government Health, if you have an update?
Sure, Bob French with Government Hill here. We have our monthly meeting tomorrow night. We've been trying to keep up to date on some of the local issues. One of the bigger issues is people may remember the Knick Arm Bridge and Toll Authority. They have bought out what was a Tesoro station and a to-go market, and are currently want to demolish that, even though they don't have any money available for to actually create the bridge. So we will find out more about that possible demolition probably towards the summer. In the meantime, we have been working with DOT trying to see if we can't get a nonprofit to be able to take over that property and be able to put it to good use instead of just having a vacant lot with a chain link fence around it.
Bob, is that all for you?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Huffman O'Malley, I know you don't have.
Yeah, hey Ari, so yeah, I'll try. We are very concerned about wildfire season coming up, so we're trying to coordinate with some other hillside area community councils on what we can do to get prepared for that. That's the biggest thing for us, and then we have something on the agenda for next month. There's an interest in the community council about coming off of the multifamily design criteria suspension, learning more about what all the different rules for development do to increase cost and what a reasonable path forward is. So we have Seahawk coming to present to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Midtown. Midtown, do you have any updates? Hey, Chris.
Actually, I was thinking about what you guys were thinking. Midtown is, we are working with Spenard and North Star on a district plan, and we're almost finished. We're really, really close to being finished. And we like what we've got and hope it moves forward.
So Mountain View, you have 1 minute just to give any updates about what's going on in the council.
I really don't have a whole lot to say.
That's okay.
So that was quick.
Lovely. I don't believe we have a North Star. Northeast, do you have an update?
I do. We will meet tomorrow is our regular meeting. On the agenda are 2 resolutions that are action items. One is a zoning exemption that we're going to look for marijuana. And the other is a marijuana shop for Balthasar on Muldoon. We also have a I'm sorry, did I hear something? I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Sam.
Go ahead.
Okay. We have a letter that's going out to the legislature to support the perimeter trail off of Muldoon, which we've been working on since I think 2022. So that will go out. Other than, our elections are April 17th. That's it.
Old Seward Ocean View.
Yes, hello. We had an extensive meeting concerning
Gary, did we lose you? Oh no, bad internet. Gary, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Oh, no, we're on there.
Yeah, I'll pass.
Oh, okay. Well, you were our last one, so that was it. There's no 45. That's it.
Okay, you want to take it? I'll try for a second. Yeah, please.
We just have Murray.
Next is our mayor report from Mary. Who's Mary?
I am here. Thank you. So glad to be here. My name is Marie Husa, Community Relations Director for Constituent Relations. Sorry, I got my title wrong. Director for the Mayor's Office. Thank you again for the invitation and for my report today. Quickly, we did our first visit with the mayor with community councils from District 1. And feedback seems to be positive. I see some people here who were at that meeting. So there's still an email to them for request for feedback so that for the next ones that we do, we can do it better. There should be another invite for next month's visit with the mayor and sometime in April. So stay tuned for that. And also I want to report that there is also now a meeting request for our office or the mayor online. I've typed up the link in the chat there that I will post shortly. Also, I want to let you all know about the arts grants. It's open now until April 14. There are two kinds of grants. One is the general grant, and we are looking for just whatever creative ways that you would like to propose for grants. And then there is the Beyond the Beige grant, which we partner with ACDA, and I see Melinda Gant is here. And that's called the Beyond the Beige grant that we're hoping to just beautify and add colors to different areas of town. We're looking forward to what creative ways people would come up with. There's $100,000 in that grant that, again, we're hoping to add beauty and color and revitalize our community. And then the next one is with talking about grants. We just closed the mayor's community grants and we received 92 applications for that one. So we'll be announcing that probably the awardees sometime in May. We're currently reviewing that now. And we also had this fun solicitation to name the snow graders, and we had 160 unique responses. So that's fun. Let's see, let's see who emerges as the winner. And I just want to remind everybody about the CIP surveys. I don't know if you've talked about that, but just your input is important. So I hope you complete the survey. And last one would be the bonds and levies. I also have a link with some summarized information about those. And it's just great, short, quick information to help you understand what's in the bonds and the proposals, what's in the ballot, and that we do hope you vote and encourage everyone to vote by May 1st. And that is all I have.
April 1st.
I'm sorry?
I think you said May 1st, it's April 1st, isn't it, the ballot
April
deadline?
1st. Yeah, no, April 1st. Yes, you are correct.
And then that's for any questions? Any questions?
I have a question. I'd like to know what's going on with the port. Are we continuing to rebuild that? What's going on there?
There's a lot going on there. If you'd like to email me with your specific questions, I can direct it to Nolan Clouda. And there was something on the assembly yesterday too it's a big project. So I'm not sure what specifics you're looking for, but its work is continuing. So, but yes, I would encourage you to just send me your questions.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for the question.
We have a question in the room for you, Kathleen.
Marie, the levy for the heavy equipment for unassuming snow, will the muni own that equipment afterwards, or are we just leasing it for the terms of the levy?
That I do not know the answer.
The assembly member I talked to today, so I mean.
Kathleen, I will get back to you on that. I have a lot of follow-ups with our meetings from today too, so I have included that question. So thank you. Should I just send it to Ariana to send to everyone?
Yes, please.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you, Kathleen.
We had another question in the room from Sarah.
I have two, actually, if that's okay. Is there any discussion or in the mayor's office plans for any impacts that uncertainty at the federal level?
You know, there's always discussions on how to be proactive on that. So we're watching closely what's going on, but we are focused locally on the mayor's priorities: public safety, homelessness, and preparedness. And I think we can say that falls under the preparedness for whatever may come our way. Yes.
And then second question is more whimsical. When will we know the names of the snowplows?
I know. I don't have the date. It just closed. So I would say at least a couple of weeks to go through the 160. It's the harder part is getting the people to get together to decide. So I will note that too, Sarah.
We will have one last question, and then we got to move on for time's sake. I believe Mike had a question.
Thanks. Yeah, it's just about the bonds because you've been talking about that. I think one thing I know a lot of people probably don't understand, and I don't think is well communicated, so perhaps you could look at that in the future, is of those 11 bonds and tax levies, I think only 2 or 3 of them are for the whole of the municipality. All the rest, like 9 of them, I think, are only paid for by parts of the municipality. Everyone has to vote in favour. It's like co-signing a loan, but only some of the municipality pays for it. And I don't think that's very well communicated. And I'm just wondering if you had any thoughts on perhaps how that could be done better in the future.
Great point. Yes, that would be our communications department of one. We do have backups, and so they will be doing the communication on that. But that is a great point. We need to do a lot more of those, and hopefully if you can help along those lines, we appreciate you. You have a big reach as far as your members, so we would appreciate the help in that. Thank you so much.
Chris Thompson is not here, so we would go to Carl.
Marie, thank you so much for your report.
Thank you so much. And I see Eagle River's invitation. We don't have a definite plan of who goes next. So if there's any particular issue that any assembly district has, let me know. So thank you all.
Chris Constant of the Assembly is not here, so we will move on to the school board presentation by Andy Holloman.
It's actually
Yeah, thank you, Chair. My name is Carl Jacobs. I'm calling in for President Holloman tonight, who's celebrating some amazing educators out in Eagle River. And so he sends his regards. With that said, just a couple quick updates, and then I'm happy to answer any questions and step aside and let you continue on with your agenda. First and foremost, this month, since our last FCC meeting, I believe the board passed its policy regarding a district-wide cell phone ban that will prohibit usage of cell phones inside classrooms for all students unless there's a demonstrated medical or educational need. There is some leeway there for families and educators to work together to demonstrate that need. The policy aligns with work being done in Juneau right now that actually was folded into House Bill 69 that contains a education funding increase as an accountability measure and another what I think is common sense measure that should support our students and improve the learning environment. And so Anchorage chose not to wait for leadership from Juneau and chose to enact that policy as it was piloted in a number of schools across the district at present. And so that policy should take effect district-wide at the start of next year. The board also voted to approve the reuse plan for the two consolidated schools that were chosen for right sizing on December 17th at our meeting on 3/4. The board chose to place the Alaska Native Cultural Charter School in Lakewood Elementary and Stream Academy in Nunaka Valley Elementary. The board also, in line with the action taken on December 17th, chose to prioritize both Rilke Schul German Immersion School as well as Highland Academy, two remaining charter schools that expressed interest in a facility. Should when the next opportunity comes available. The board plans to re-engage the right sizing conversation and continue reducing our footprint of elementary capacity this fall, and have asked administration for a proposal to consider. And so more information will be coming on that later this year. Lastly, I'll just speak to the budget process. The board, when we adopted our operating budget, included a detailed plan as to how the budget would be modified to reverse the really harmful cuts that had to be made to comply with statute and pass the balanced budget that resulted in potential increases in class size, reductions in programming for some very popular programs like language immersion and Ignite Gifted Education, as well as reductions in service for things like middle school sports and high school sports, a reduction in the number of librarians and school nurses, and more. The board attached that detailed spending plan to reverse those cuts, and as well as further reduce class sizes, which is a priority of our board as well as the community in general, and then invest in high dose tutoring, which is a method of additional instruction to really focus with students in need of additional time with small groups and an educator to improve reading outcomes that has demonstrated significant benefit. That plan did draw up some positive bipartisan regard in the Alaska House and was referenced by at least one, multiple legislators, but at least one member of the House minority as justification for why they chose to support House Bill 69 as it left the House and headed to the Senate. Since then, HB 69 has received, I think, two separate hearings, the second of which occurred this afternoon, and public testimony will continue on the bill this Friday at 3:30. And so the board is happy for anyone who wishes to take time to encourage their circle to call in and provide testimony as to the benefits of passing a permanent increase to the base student allocation. And that's Friday at 3:30 in the Senate Education hearing. With that said, as soon as a bill passes, the board intends to utilize the spending plan that we created and sent to Juneau and attached to our budget as a North Star for allocating resources as they're allocated. So with that said, would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you for the opportunity to present to the FCC tonight.
Thank you, Carl. Any questions? Well, I have one question. I'm Evan of Sand Lake. I just have a question about what you said early on in the presentation about the school. I believe you said it was the school board's decision to not allow phones in classes. Does that depend on elementary, middle, and high schools? And does that account for no phones in the classes, or just that there's a general rule that you're not supposed to be on your phone in the classes?
Yeah, great question. That would be it would be for all campuses at all levels, and we certainly expect that there will be less instances where elementary students are bringing cell phones to school, although that certainly is changing over time, specifically with our fifth graders. But it is all campuses at all levels of campuses, and then the policy as the board drafted and implemented it would prohibit the usage of the cell phone. It would not indicate that a student is required to keep the cell phone, say, in a locker or in another location. It would require that the student not utilize the cell phone unless there was a approved educational or medical need.
Thank you. We have a question in the room from Lizzie.
I use a lot of us use our cell phones to do calendars. And I would think that the same thing would be occurring in high schools. And then might that work with time planning?
Yeah, so appreciate the question, Lizzie. There isn't a prohibition on the usage of cell phones in the policy at during lunch or during passing periods or before or after school. That time certainly could be available. With that said, and this is only anecdotally, but my wife Alicia and I have fostered students roughly 65 or so over the last 12 years, and all of them have attended ASD schools. I have yet to meet a teenager who's demonstrated interest in using a calendar as much as I've tried to encourage it. With that said, I wholeheartedly agree it should be a more common practice and should be part of the ongoing freshman academy work that we're implementing as district wide. So I agree we need to make time for that. There is time for that allowed in this policy. It just would not be it would not be allowed as part of the current iteration of the cell phone restriction policy. So I appreciate the question.
Thank you. Any questions in board or on Zoom?
Yes, if I could. Carl, so you mentioned more resizing. Did you put a timeline on that? I didn't hear that.
Yeah, no, appreciate the question, Ms. Rieger. So the board on 12/17, because the original list, which I believe started at 7 total campuses, was eventually approved at a level of 2 campuses that were consolidated, recognized that we have additional capacity that we likely need to reduce, not only to better utilize existing facilities and reduce the number of elementary schools that operate at a suboptimal capacity, sometimes in the 50 to 60% range. But in addition, because those facilities can offer better educational opportunities for students, that when a building has a higher level of utilization, that opportunity for neighborhood students also dovetails with an opportunity to make use of that space for an ASD charter program that can utilize that space and then potentially expand access to those neighborhood students and provide an educational opportunity that students might not have otherwise by increasing capacity. And I'll give an example. Stream Academy paid a private religious entity in the lower 48 rent on an annual basis and will up until they move later this year. For the use of a facility and had a hard capped enrollment with a significant waiting list. By relocating to Nunaka Valley Elementary and having those students served at another elementary school with a higher utilization and then better access to services for that reason, Stream is also available to increase its capacity and offer that opportunity to more students and more families in East Anchorage than previously could take advantage of it. And so that process will continue. It will continue this fall is when the board asked for another recommendation. And so the timeline will be roughly the same and that it'll be discussed in fall, reviewed and approved as part of the process that we engage in. And then ultimately it's part of our operating budget for the following fiscal year.
Thank you. We have time for one last question if anyone has one. And seeing no questions, thank you so much, Carl, for your presentation.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay. It does not say it on the agenda, but next on our agenda is a presentation from Lieutenant Burns about the bonds.
Where do I stand?
We're near the microphone that's right there. Right over there.
There.
Best spot. And you can see the screen on the table, I can see you.
I'm Lieutenant Dave Burns from APD. Thank you for giving me the time here. This all started with Dagger Creek. They asked me to come and talk about bond 4, probably bonds 4 and 11, which affect the Anchorage Police Department. Really fast, bond number 4 is basically upgrading our buildings or renovating them to where we're gonna come into compliance with at our Elmore station, which was, those of you who've been here since the 80s, that was built with the 80s funds. It shows it. And we're basically going to replace, make our south entrance ADA compliant, which is kind of to do for employees and also the public. That we are going to upgrade our heating system. There are couplings in there that are 45 years old, and it's also when they leak. And it's kind of a challenge, as we'll say. The other portion of the money goes to our Jewel Road Transit Center, which is in like cars, if you remember that, Safeway. Also be upgraded to ADA entrance for the public and employees. And then the last piece is the our headquarters downtown, which is our newest building. But it was designed for a legislative building, a police station. And so the generator needs to be upgraded. Right now, power goes off significantly. That large portion of that building doesn't have. And that doesn't work so much for an agency that has to work during earthquakes, floods, and so on and so forth. So the upgrade of the generator. So that's what the proposition 4 is. It's basically a lot of renovations to all 3 of our facilities, mainly the Elmore facilities. A lot of work has been done there lately. It's contentious, but the actual building itself is old, and we have a lot of people. Any questions on that one? The other big ones, and that's a lot. Next one is 11, which is a levy. And I'm a police officer, and so levies and bonds and all this kind of stuff are kind of new to me, and now I understand what that means. This is a big one for police cars, and we go through police cars. Roughly about 12 to 15 cars get destroyed in city damage, collisions, various other shenanigans that happen. Unfortunately, they get deadlined. And right now, the city's total budget for the police department and parks, recs, and everyone else is about, one of the numbers right, roughly $2.3 million. That's for all of us. We get usually $1 million, which replaces about 14 years. Approximately. Depends on the cost and if there's specialty damage. Right now, 30% of our fleet has over 100,000 to 200,000 miles on it. Those are all miles in the city of Anchorage driving around like we have to, which is to go places quickly and we all know driving around here populates and so on. The idling time that we have to leave our vehicles running, because if you've ever seen a police car, there's all kinds of stuff in there. Just a lot of electronics. These cars are literally like what comes off of the line that you and I would buy, and we put all kinds of police stuff. Well, we have to leave them idling so that the cars. Like mine's idling out there right now because it has like 3 GPSs, a computer running, and a radio. It's crazy the amount of power. So if you add in idling time, it's almost like 2 times the amount of actually miles. I have cheat sheets, so I'm not a car guy. I'm once you get behind it, I go 2 and 4 places. That's what cars are. The tax levy would be $3 million, and what this would allow us, $3 million plus the $1 million from the city, would allow us to start a program where we're replacing approximately 10% of our fleet a year, which industry standard, there really isn't one. You can go by AST, they replace their vehicles every 5 to 6 years at about 80,000. Okay, this is a comparison. When we have all of these high mileage vehicles, and I supervise swing shifts, so there's about 60 police officers roughly. There's 30 of them working right now. On a given night, 1 or 2 of their cars goes down. They have to come off the road, find a replacement. The replacement cars are often the older ones. And so it takes some time, to them off the road. And so it starts almost getting to a safety issue. And a lot of times, if there are no cars that are available, so 2 police officers in a car, they can go to call them. What this money would allow us is to start recouping and replacing vehicles as they are older. Because when I got hired here 19 plus years ago, that is what happened. There was plenty of money, and they would retire cars at 10 years or 120,000 miles. They would sell them off at auction. They'd all become taxi cabs, as we would recognize them. And eventually they'd be taxi cabs in the valley, so on and so forth. But we can't do that now because they're not serviceable. They literally get crushed. And so there's no recoup. So if we retire cars, say it on time, we would then be able to recoup money to put back into fleet services. So we're hitting all the points here. The other thing, if you have newer cars, obviously, reduce fuel costs, because they're more efficient cars. There's nothing like driving around a 2017 right now, Ford Explorer. And we have other cars that we had no 7 pound vehicle going around. I drove an older one when I was in high school, but man, they're great cars, but that's as a police car, it's been used quite a bit. The main thing is to try and make up for the number of years that we haven't been able to do this for various reasons, and that's what this ranking is about. That's a brief synopsis. I really appreciate letting me talk. We had the opportunity at Rabbit Creek, and I reached out to, I'm not sure if I reached out to, I think I reached out to the attorney there, see if I can come talk, and she said yes, which I greatly appreciate. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Jim.
It's all good.
Good, okay, so, do you have any questions at all? I'll do my best to answer them, the best of my ability. Yes, sir.
Just a quick one. The tax levy, is that a one-off, or is this a vote to
Yearly
continue it?
tax.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the, I can't answer, like, there was that snowplow question, in that we own these cars, we buy them, and then we maintain them. And then they're in the city's fleet till we sell it and then auction them. Is the goal. So it is a yearly thing.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money. Yeah.
I also have 2 questions.
Yes.
I didn't quite hear why cars have to idle all the time.
So in the car itself, there are large amounts of electronics. Like I can just think about I've had 4 cars in my career, maybe 5 at this point. I don't turn the batteries off, the car dies overnight. If I turn your car off, put it in the garage, it starts the next day. I can't do that. I have to turn the entire thing off, kill it, because there are so many things in the background. When it comes to, like, I have a body on camera, it's not recording, it's just on, but I also have one in the car, and then I have computers, then I have GPS devices, and then there's several other things that just are powered constantly. And that is the main reason you see them, oftentimes if it's 32 degrees or less, then idling. If it's over that, we turn them off, not only to save gas, but also wear and tear.
So it's sort of like you have to drive your car and leave it idle or
You are correct.
off for 6 hours.
You're correct. There was I can tell you a story that I had a 07 Impala where I had to replace the battery 7 times in a year. And oftentimes I had to jump my car almost on a weekly basis.
And then I did have one more question. What's the Elmore facility is for now?
So the Elmore facility was our main police station, and then remember Chief Justin Dahl got us down at the main headquarters. What is at the Elmore facility now is the bulk of our records department. Dispatch is still there. That's a very critical thing that's there. Then the downstairs portion of it is an evidence warehouse that we outgrow constantly. Then there's our IT department there, and the patrol division, like I am in now. We start there, and like that's where my office is, and the supervisors are there briefly, but once a day at 7, 4, and 11 p.m. all the officers there meet, and then we go home. And then downtown is where detectives and admin, much like captains and deputy chiefs, that's where the chief case. Yes, sir.
You maxed out on evidence space for evidence. You're gonna get any thoughts on putting another building out there?
I no, not that I know.
Oh.
There's a lot of empty buildings
It's
around this
Oh, I
town.
totally agree with you. I'll give you a little bit of hindsight. Before I got this position, I was the admin lieutenant. That remodel was my job for 2 years. It's a very big question because we get a lot of evidence in and out. There's statutory requirements of what we have to do. Like, we have guns that it's crazy amount of evidence that we have to keep. And we outgrow it. We do destroy stuff. We do release stuff as best we can. As for building a whole warehouse, there's a lot of us that love it, but once again, it's time and money and space. And
We gotta go out with that.
Yep.
We won't go into that.
No, I'd rather not, because that is just, that wasn't fun, so. Yeah, I know.
You can attend.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
Hey, no, it's all good. I used to run this house, as long as you're not throwing things like that. So, thank you for the time. I'm more than happy to come to individual meetings and do the same exact spiel. I think I sent you the.
Yeah, I will share contact information and the sheet. I send them a recap email with all of that information.
Please do, because I did give you what I'm reading from. here, so that you
Yes, I
have.
will share.
I do have to go. If you have any questions.
Can I just say one thing? I should actually follow up to what I asked earlier about Marie. There are 2 community councils who won't be paying for your,
Oh, yeah, I know.
yeah. So, Michael and I, we're outside of the pay.
Totally understand. And I've
I've
been here since 1975, totally got it.
Real quick one.
Yeah.
We're having a West Anchorage Community Council Candidates Forum tomorrow evening at Spinard Rec Center.
Mhm.
And we have been warned that things might get a little dicey.
Okay.
And we don't know if, if the security, we know Bernard has a security staff there.
Mhm.
Somebody suggested maybe ABD should show up.
What time is that?
It's from 5 to 8 p.m. at the multi-purpose room, it's Bernard Rec Center. And I don't know what to expect, so that's just kind of an FYI.
No, that's fine. I will happily tell the people that are working on it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so kindly.
Thank you.
Jennifer.
You're welcome. You guys have a good evening. That's it.
Thank you for coming.
All right, to continue on, we are now on our education topic, and we have a presentation by the planning department on the 10-year update for the comprehensive plan.
Can I sit here and potentially
Yeah,
share my?
there is great. Do you have slides?
Yeah, I could share them through Zoom.
Oh, yeah. We can make it do.
And.
I'm sorry, could you say your name as well?
Yeah, my name is Daniel McKenna Foster. Long range planner in the municipality. We have a couple of projects going on that we wanted to just let everyone know about. 3 kind of big updates and answer any questions about them. The first thing is that we have a new page for Title 20 update 1. So now thank you. Title 21 updates. So Title 21 is the zoning code. So any zoning fanatics out there like me, you can see this. We're updating it every week. And this is just a screenshot, but it also shows some of the recent changes that have been adopted. The next thing is we've recently kicked off the very beginning stages of a 10-year targeted comprehensive plan update. The 10-year comp plan update, targeted comp plan update is required by code. And we were also directed by the assembly to get going on one last August or so. So we are kicking off that project. We haven't started the actual review yet. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna have the Planning and Zoning Commission review these, and they're gonna review them at their regular meetings. All recorded, everybody can watch, it'll all be posted. So they will be working through the action strategies and policies of the 2020 comprehensive plan and the 2040 land use plan. And so the one piece that they're not gonna look through is the goals of these plans, because those goals, in looking through them, they still seem pretty relevant, pretty important to the community, and so those seem to be fine. There's no need to update any of those. But of course, whatever the Planning and Zoning Commission wants to do, they can do. So we'll also provide that information to them, and if they say, we want to look at the goals too, we'll be glad to do that. We're really sort of facilitating this process for them to look at these and figure out if these actions, policies, and strategies are still relevant or still, some of them need to be updated. For example, some date back to 2001, and they say stuff. It's like, oh, that's already been accomplished, and so it's sort of part house cleaning, part updating this policy guidance to Anchorage, the current conditions. So we I think we'll start having the actual review in May. Basically in April, because of scheduling, we're just gonna kick it off with a work session with the Planning and Zoning Commission to provide some background information. It's like, here's demographic information, here's a lot of the sort of research on housing, here's a lot of permitting information, here's all the goal information. So that'll happen, I think, on April 14th. It'll be a work session. But the really interesting stuff will happen in May, starting in May. What you see on the screen is a screenshot of this sort of worksheet that we provided to them. It has the original strategy, action, or policy, and then it has maybe some recommendations from staff, some possible language, and then space for the Planning and Zoning Commission to fill out what they think. And so what we're planning to do is make this public so anybody can kind of follow along and kind of fill in the worksheet on their own as well. And then you send that to the Planning and Zoning Commission and provide feedback to them. Next one. Oh yeah, this is sort of a just bullet points of that. PCC will review. They're not gonna spend a lot of time on goals because those are good. There doesn't seem to be any need to change them. All discussion will be out of planning and zoning. At the end of the process, the planning department will bring the draft document back to PCC and it'll go through the full normal process. So they'll give us their recommendations, we'll write it up and we'll talk about, sort of a debrief of the whole process, and then it'll go to planning and zoning again, out for review, and then to the assembly for approval. None of this passes without assembly approval. So we're hoping the project may finish sometime around the end of 2025. It really just depends how much time planning and zoning spends, looking at this stuff and discussing it, but it'll take a few months for sure. Yes.
Just to you said the review will take place during the regular PNC meetings.
It'll take, there's an agenda item on every planning and zoning commission agenda, Title 21. So it'll just sort of be a standing item.
Because the work sessions typically don't get recorded.
Yeah, and that was just more of a scheduling thing. We were gonna have a regular meeting in April. We couldn't, but the first meeting, the work session for planning and zoning is really just saying, here's all the stuff we want you to look at the beginning. Look at these plans, look at this past research, look at the permitting info, and just really walk them through a lot of it. So the real discussion about the actual meat of it will be starting in May. Yeah.
And
Yes, sir.
what is the title of this document? Like when people are talking about it, does it have a special title?
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked it because it reminds me that it doesn't have one now. I mean, this right now, we're just sort of calling it the worksheet. Because it's like you go through and you fill out your comments. At the end though, we're planning on creating a consolidated policy guidance document. So basically, because right now, you have your 2020 information, 2040 information. Sometimes there's overlap, sometimes there's slight contradiction, but both are still in force, right? And so a lot of people said, when do you refer to what? And we'd like to consolidate everything into one list. So the 2020, 2040 will still be there, but it'll just be like, the first pages will say, okay, here's all the consolidated stuff. All the consolidated goals, all the consolidated policies, all the consolidated strategies, all the consolidated actions. So anybody looking, there will be no more like, well, that's item 1.3 in 2040, but it contradicts item 17 in 2020, because that, even for us, has been confusing.
So can we refer to this as the 2025 update, or because when you're talking to people, it would be nice to have a title that we all are using to refer to this.
I mean, we might have just coined it. That could be it. We've just been calling it the 10-year targeted comp plan update. If you want to call it the 2025, I mean, it's kind of like the Mitten in Girdwood. There's a little area in Girdwood, people started calling it the Mitten, and now it's enshrined in Girdwood land use forever.
One of the three names.
The ballpoint pen, what was the other one? Anyway.
But when you referred to comp plan, it wasn't until just a moment ago that you included your 2040 comp, land use plan. So it's kind of confusing. So you're doing both plans. So
They're one and the same.
Sorry.
No, please.
I don't know, I have two different documents that are in my whole house.
So the comp plan is actually a compilation of all of those documents. When the planning department refers to the comp plan, they're referring to all of our community plans together, including the 2040 land use plan, the 2020 comp plan, which is actually the Anchorage Bowl 2020 comp plan. The Girdwood plan is now part of the comp plan. So this review is going to focus on the 2040 land use plan and the 2020 Anchorage Bowl comprehensive plan and update those specifically. I'm sorry, my name is Melissa Babb, by the way, for the record. Another thing that I wanted to add to that is that this is going to be a very, very targeted review of that comp plan, which is an extremely large compilation of documents. Not only is it going to be specific to those two documents, which are the 2040 land use plan and the 2020 Anchorage Rural Comprehensive Plan, but it will be specific to housing related items in those plans. So we won't be reviewing all of the industrial needs in the community. We won't be reviewing some of the other aspects of those plans. We will try to keep the review specific to housing related issues. So there will be policies and strategies and actions in this worksheet that will be grayed out, which basically means that they are not related to housing. And we will not be addressing those as part of this targeted review at this time, but they will remain in the document as part of the document, part of the guidance.
A lot of ones related to parks, like no need to touch those, right? Leave them in it. And there's one here, it's strengthen central business district's role as a regional center of commerce. Not related to housing, leave it in. Again, if planning and zoning says we really want to look at that, they're sort of calling the shots, right? But for the most part, it is targeted on the housing issues, and so much of them touch on housing that we have a lot to get through. They'll have a lot to get through, but if you see something grayed out, it's not that that's going away, it's that that's staying as it is, and it'll just go into the longer list as it is. Plus,
planning and zoning decides that they want to address that particular item, and then we can pull that.
Or the assumptions.
for the assumption, right? Yeah, so thank you, great questions. The next thing we wanted to talk about is there was a new AO, an ordinance.
Right, excuse me, I thought I'd let you finish. I have a question back on.
Okay.
I apologize. So, back in the day, there was a public process component in it, not just a show up at a hearing and testify, but actually working groups that dialogue with staff and commissioners and, just entities, interested entities, developers. Is that gonna be part of this, or is that being cut out of this review?
It won't be if you. Sorry. I'm so sorry. So we will not be cutting out any of that collaboration with the community. We will be available to meet with people as we have capacity to meet with people. So another reason that we're doing a very targeted review and we're using the Planning and Zoning Commission as our working group for this is because we do not have the capacity to do a full update. And we're hoping that the community will participate via written comments with the worksheets and watching the discussion and providing feedback to the Planning and Zoning Commission at the end of the process. But also anytime you have questions, we will be available to answer those questions as the process moves forward.
I'm sad to hear that because that was a really valuable component of how what's in the current plans. Yeah, we can focus on housing. We don't have to expand it just to include above it. But it would be useful if you had, at least a couple of public sessions where people could come and dialogue and chat and talk and ask questions as a body versus submit some comments.
We will consider doing that for sure.
I think that would be a really good idea.
We're not ruling that out at all. It's just at this point, this is the plan as it stands. But if we hear a need for community meetings that involve sitting down in a room like this and hearing comments in person, we will definitely consider that. Especially if it involves the FCC.
Just out of curiosity, you have a group of people very committed to public engagement. What would get you guys to a capacity where that was possible? What do you guys need?
5 more staff.
5 staff. It's staff, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We are.
And funding for those staff, I would also assume. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not just you have spots to fill.
No, and there are a lot of projects going on right now. There are a lot of competing needs in the city. And this is a priority. But, and that's again why we decided to use the Planning and Zoning Commission as our working group, because we just don't have the capacity to organize an independent working group. And we already are attending those meetings. They're a good venue because they're recorded and very public and provide, a window into what we're up to. But we are absolutely open to meeting with people when we can.
No, we definitely understand capacity in this room, so just was curious what would get us to a better spot.
Yeah, because this is pretty important. This
Right.
isn't a one.
And we
Then
hate,
top
like, in
21 at this.
future for this, like, that just speaks to like the planning department as a whole and capacity, and that makes me nervous of like future plans and capacity there, so maybe this body has thought about that in the future. What we can do to support.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah, so well, it's gonna be this will be several months, so it's not happening immediately, not happening overnight. It's gonna be many months, and it sounds like, I think as we go, we'll be able to refine it.
Yeah.
Procedure. Yes, sir.
Question regarding capacity. This is Steve Callahan, University area. So supposedly we're supposed to be doing a UMed plan and an East Anchorage plan, and we're doing this. I realize the planning department's in East Anchorage. You're gonna have a full-time person work on this. I mean, what's the deal? All this happening at once.
I mean, things were set up to move towards a lot of those plans. If
Right,
you're gonna
right.
set up a system like that, you need a lot of people to operate those and a lot of people to update those. So
Right,
this
right,
is sort of the bare bones of, we've been instructed by the assembly, and the code tells us we have to update this every 10 years.
Right,
There are all those
right.
other ones. I mean, Airport Heights doesn't have a plan, like, there are
Right.
plenty of places all over town.
Do we need a UMed plan? A district plan?
That might be a UMed question. I don't know, and I don't actually know, because I look at the 2016 UMed plan is fairly recent.
I have a sheet of all the plans that do exist and like where they're broken down on our website for reference.
It's also in codes, in chapter 1 of code. You can see all the adopted plans. There's the other, some are adopted in code.
Yeah, because essentially UMed overlaps with East Anchorage.
Yeah.
So,
And East Anchorage plan is from like 2014 or 2015, right?
yeah, 2014. I think UMed's like 2016.
2016, and then you have 2040, which is 2017. And the most current is supposed to sort of like be the.
Right.
Right.
But I think aren't we supposed to be doing either East Anchorage or the UMed or something supposed to be going on?
I think there are a lot of things we could be doing, and there are a lot of things we'd like to be doing. I think you're just sort of highlighting maybe what you're saying is that anything is possible if you have enough resources.
And we're redoing our bounds, so,
Community council, that's another sort of codified requirement. You have to
right,
do it every time.
so we got a lot going on.
Yeah.
You have to do UMed. I get that thing.
Just because we're running short on time, if we can let him get to the end of the presentation and hold questions and then come back for questions.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we just have one more thing, which is also a fairly significant but pretty positive change. Last night at the assembly, there was a new ordinance. It was 2025-40, AO 2025-40 was introduced, and it creates new rezone processes. And a lot of this is sort of to continue implementing the 2040 plan. Basically, right now there are kind of 3 types of rezones, and this will add 2 more tools for types of rezones. So right now there's a general rezone that maybe requires an amendment to the comprehensive plan, maybe doesn't. An overlay rezone, which is sort of creating a special set of rules on top of the other existing rules. A BCD rezone, which is a planned community development district. It's sort of like a special planned area. There's only a few of those in South Anchorage. And the 2 new tools are a streamlined comprehensive plan implementation rezone, which implement the comprehensive plan or remove a special limitation. So they don't require a comprehensive plan. And then a MUNI-led targeted rezones process. So rezones initiated by the Assembly, the Administration, and Planning and Zoning Commission, like area-wide rezoning, targeted rezonings, and overlays. And that the 2020 plan, 2040 plan for years have been calling for, we want to do overlays, we want to do targeted rezones. And the MUNI's actually never really been able to do it because we haven't had the tools. We get to this position, and then all of a sudden it's weird because the MUNI is like, oh, do we have to apply to ourselves? Do we have to have a meeting with ourselves? And so this is sort of cleaning up some of that stuff to say, if you want to do this and you want to do these target area rezones or create these overlays like the plans call for, this is another process to do it. So those are the updates. Any questions? Or I'll defer to
Do you
the chair.
mind, ending the screen share so we can see our
Yep.
friends?
Get a question with Mike or Sarah?
Can you explain what an overlay is?
An overlay is an additional set of rules on top of the existing rules that can change those, make them more permissive or more restrictive. So say you live in an R1 district and it's like your house can look like this and this. An overlay could say your house can only be green or red and it can be this shape. Or it could say, actually in this area, you could have 2 houses or 3 houses or something like that. So it's an additional set, it's sort of like an additional zoning code or zoning district that applies on top of it.
Okay. Thanks.
You guys gonna take this show on the road? Can community councils reach out to have this presentation at their council?
I'm glad to speak to anybody who's interested.
Just a quick question, there was some, I think at the previous meeting, assembly meeting, there was also some these things introduced for planning and zoning discussion about other changes to the way comprehensive plans are updated and the status of components within the comprehensive plan. Can you speak to where that process is?
That is, I think on hold at the moment. We're not certain exactly what is the result of that is going to be, whether or not it's going to continue or be introduced again, or we're in discussion with the assembly sponsors on that particular suggested change.
I thought that did go back, so it's actually it's on hold, it hasn't been.
Well, I think there's 2, and I'm not sure exactly which.
I was thinking the one that there were 2 parts to the comprehensive plan, well, the 2 parts to it, one was changing the process for comprehensive plan updates outside the vault. And the other one was changing the status of neighborhood and district plans within.
2025-67.
Yeah, thank you.
The one that would potentially change the status of the neighborhood and district
Yeah,
plans
there were
to
2 parts to
advisory.
that. Yeah.
That I believe is something that we have been directed to take to the Planning and Zoning Commission in September. September.
Thank you.
So that we will be writing staff report on and taking to the Planning and Zoning Commission. The other piece of that, which is the change to the way that comprehensive plans might be amended, I believe. That is in flux. We had some questions about the legality of some of the recommendations, so we're legal is reviewing it. And so I'm not sure where that's.
Thank you.
We have a question from Candy on Zoom.
Yes, what was that 5th category of the rezoning?
The 5th category?
Yeah, the multi-use or?
It was muni led, so it's rezones done by the assembly, the administration, and the planning and zoning commission.
Muni led, thank you.
Yeah, initiated by the municipality.
Will you share the slides so I can send them around?
Yeah, I'll send it. Actually, I can just email them to you.
Thank you.
Any last questions? Kathy?
So what is the rationale about the effort to have district and neighborhood plans advisory only? Can you explain what the status is currently? They're mandated, and then you want to change that to advisory, and can you explain what the rationale is, if I got it right?
So I cannot speak for the assembly sponsors on the rationale behind that proposal. I think it's listed in that they are, but I don't feel comfortable speaking on behalf of the assembly.
So from the planning department perspective, do you have thoughts on the proposal?
I am going to hold on a comment on that because I think it's a very complicated issue. And we need to look into it a little bit more, look into what the impacts might be and consider what exactly our options would be if it passed. So it's an interesting idea, but I don't feel comfortable speaking on it yet because we haven't had enough time to really look into it.
That's kind of what councils are too. All right, thank you.
We have a question from Sarah.
Actually, I move that we extend the meeting to 8:20 p.m.
Hopefully we don't need that.
I'll second.
Uh, I just have a question myself. Two clarification questions. AO 2025, A40, the new rezone rules, is that already passed? So that's now
No, that was introduced.
introduced. Thank you. And this, second clarification is, you mentioned briefly April 14th work session. I was just, didn't understand the reference to what that's talking about.
Planning and zoning, so the planning and zoning commission usually meets on the first two Mondays of the month. There are no regular meetings for the planning and zoning commission in April. There's gonna be a work session on April 14th. And that's when we're gonna go to the planning commission and say, here's all this stuff you should read. And I don't know if we scheduled it, it'll be in the library, I don't know which room in the library it'll be in. But, and then it'll be recorded and then we'll post the recording. But the really interesting stuff will start in the May regular meeting. So that'll be April 14th is a work session with planning and zoning commission.
I see, thank you.
And all of the materials that we're going to provide to the planning and zoning commission will be posted on the website as well as part of the project, so the public will have access to everything that planning and zoning is seeing. Will be on the website.
We have a last question from John.
Are there any currently contemplated administration or union-led targeted rezones in under discussion?
There's several identified in our comp plan. So if you look through the 2040 comp plan, you'll see suggestions for small area targeted rezones in different areas of the community. But really the one that we in the planning department are most interested in at the moment are the parks rezones that we're trying to complete. So there's several parks in municipal parks in town that are not currently zoned as parks. So we are interested in trying to address that situation, and this would help us do that in a more efficient manner. So.
I really like that, and of course, I'm sure everybody knows there's a lot of designated parks as opposed to dedicated parks. Can that dovetail into this?
We're hoping that it will. I can't, because there's a lot of complicated questions about what is designated and what isn't.
Yeah, mine in a long time. I don't know which one, in Turnagain, I worked with Tom Thorosy 10 years ago. And so he went through Turnagain. I know which Turnagain parks are dedicated and which ones are
Oh,
designated.
good. So I know who to call.
Well, that's just for Turnagain.
Yeah.
So can we assume that you're trying to go towards more dedicated parks?
That, yes. I mean, I cannot speak for the Parks Department either, but I would like to.
Versus trying to sell them off? We're trying to see which side you're on.
Oh, which side do I want to sell off all the parks in the city? I would love to see us retain our parks.
The rezoning is establishing zoning for parks, because sometimes you look at the zoning map and it's zoned R2M as a park. Everybody knows it's a park. You look, it's like, oh, it's really bad. So that's come from the plan, so that's like way back.
We're gonna move on for the sake of time. Any more questions? I imagine that you guys can accept the later time or, yeah. And, thank you so kindly, Daniel and Melissa.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thanks. We let's now move on to the education topic from the ACDA, the Midtown District Plan.
I think we have Melinda online.
Sorry. Hi, everyone. So for the sake of time, because I know we're running a little over for your meeting, I'm going to present quickly. If you can hold off on your questions, I know this is a really engaging group. But if you can just jot down some of your questions you may have while I'm presenting, I think it'll speed the process up for the presentation so you guys can get out and have some time to yourselves this evening. So I'm going to go ahead and share. And I want to be sure that number one, can you see this presentation right now as it is?
We can see it.
Perfect. Okay. I'm going to pop it to the beginning and then I am going to close off my video so that I'm not taking away from the presentation. So first, this is the Midtown District Plan. My name is Melinda Gant. from Anchorage Community Development Authority. And I want to acknowledge, number one, our planning team wishes to acknowledge the traditional homeland of Dena'ina Athabascans and their contributions Alaska Natives people make to our community and society every single day. And so with that, we had three planning team members that were involved with this. Christine Bunell, she used to be the senior long-range planning manager, and now she runs Boazoo. Holly Spoth Norris of Huddle AK and Shannon Suspain of Agnew and Beck was my team, along with long-range planning. And I am going to bring this back to, bear with me here. I'm so sorry. I'm going to go home. And oh dear, hold on a second, slideshow from the beginning. There we go. All right. So with every plan, there's always a process. And we started off with public engagement. And where we're at today now is that the plan draft has been submitted for public review, and that was in February. That was published. We are now in our process of doing public hearings during the month of April. And then eventually with the assembly to adoption, and then having that plan published. So we're very excited. We're getting close to the end of this. We have a 6-member team. It is comprised of 3 community councils. And I'm going to go back to that original slide. 3 community councils. One is North Star. One is Spenard, and it's that kind of that boot shapes of the Spenard corridor. And then of course, Midtown. Our team started working on this process about 18 months ago, and the steering committee was comprised of 2 members from each community council. 2 are in attendance today, I believe. One is Chris and Stoner, and then Sarah Prescott. I believe she's in there in that meeting too as well. We actually had our very last meeting during the month of February. So we actually had a total of 13 steering committee meetings. And I want to remind everybody, these folks were volunteering their time. And we had some lengthy meetings, and they have put so much energy and effort into making this plan happen. Our next thing that we started focusing on, of course, was our existing conditions report that every single district plan will have. And that included the goals, objectives, and action items. And we discussed those in our public meeting number 1 and 2. We also started focusing on our capital improvement projects. And we also, during that time, we were surveying the community. We had a lot of one-on-one meetings with the business community. And we did a lot of research and producing some really fabulous reports from this plan. We had our final public meeting number 3, which was on March 3rd. At the BP Energy Center. We had a really large attendance, and this particular one was interesting. We had a lot more residents attend the last meeting. So a little bit about the existing conditions report. It was homesteaded primarily due to World War II, and really the folks wanted to have a new start, and Midtown was kind of the place to be. Eventually, many families started subdividing, and then they started kind of merging into the homesteading. And what we see today is one really large landholder, which is comprised of 3 to 5 homesteaders, is the Calais Company. What we also discovered, and we had a couple of aha moments with this plan research. But Midtown, as we know, is the business district, but it is also the center of Anchorage's economy. It is the #1 economy base, not only for Anchorage, but for Alaska. It has surpassed, and this happened back in the 2000s, it has already surpassed downtown, and it has surpassed Ted Stevens Airport area. So as you well can think about, is that Midtown is incredibly important for our economy in Anchorage. When we were going through this process, we really focused on a guiding vision, but eventually ended up with 4 themes that the steering committee came up with, and that was the economy, the sense of place, resilience, and safety and crime. We had a lot of recommendations from those pillars for the economy, quality of life, and sense of place. We had quite a few immediate actions that we were thinking about. And if you read the district plan, the executive summary, each community council area came up with 1 to 3 year action plans. But the big focus was B3, get it amended in Title 21 development, and long range planning has been working really hard on this. We discovered that we could immediately get in 550 new housing units in the Midtown area. The archive site, which is that little square on the bottom right, is a fabulous location that can be a catalytic site, meaning if it gets developed, more economy will be circled around the area to make it a full live, work, and play area. We started looking at some other areas on that catalytic sites, including mobile home areas, reimagining those. But the ones that you see in orange are we talked with developers, and those are sites that could potentially be redeveloped into more housing. We also acknowledged that we needed to start working on our streets. We needed to develop wayfinding for public placemaking. And the two aha moments that the 3 councils came up with was we discovered that Cuddy Park does not have a master plan. All 3 councils agreed that they could all come together and support a master plan for Cuddy Park. And we discussed about the daylighting of Fish Creek, and they all agreed that an engineering and feasibility study needs to happen to look at the idea of having Fish Creek daylighted into the Midtown area, and they all supported this. It continued with the placemaking of signage and wayfinding for our streets and making them safer. We're putting in the NACTO standards, the Vision Zero, the Complete Streets policy. We're also going to be adding in the non-motorized plan that was adopted in 2021. Quite a few of the TIP funded corridor studies are mentioned in our plan to support the Spenard corridor recommendations. And then, of course, streetscape improvements. Several streets in the Midtown area were also identified to support corridors to be transformed to support residential areas. Our community resilience, we had a lot of recommendations. And of course, we were looking at transit ridership. We wanted to connect pedestrian bicycle network to make everybody safer. Spenard parcels to get them on to the MOA water system was identified. We want to make sure that year-round maintained right-of-way. In Title 21, they use specific standards for code reform. We're also proposing an update to the land use map, and I'm going to point you to the diagram that you see in front of you. Basically, that candy cane stripe is the one area that we're looking to modify. We shorted up to be aligned from bringing it up to East Tudor to Fireweed to become really that core area for Midtown so it can be focused on. The other suggestion that we made in place was that all the purple that you see, we're recommending that the owners have the option of doing development of B3. Right now, B3 is heavily used to do housing development. And so it was a recommendation from the group that they wanted to see more housing, and they saw that as the best path going forward. New crime activation tools are recommended. We wanted to have incentive programs for our new businesses, maintain the current property rights, and of course, activate public spaces to decrease crime. Our plan, if you're curious, each council area or boundary map area had 3 distinct focuses for Midtown, North Star, and Spenard. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm going to do some highlights. Midtown is very focused on Cuddy Park as the jewel of Midtown, and they want to see some improvements happen there, along with safer environment and new housing. North Star, they really want to see walking and biking connectivity and also safety. And also, we added in, would like to see Valley of the Moon as their park, and that was something of a discussion. Spenard really was focusing on their Spenard corridor. They've been working really hard on that and getting it moving forward. So that was their big focus, along with the walking and biking connectivity and activation of private and public spaces. And all of the groups were talking about safety. Of course, this is a big thing on everybody's brain, is activating public spaces to reduce crime. This one was another aha moment for us, and this came out of our housing and economic report. And I would encourage you all to read this report. But in particular, this is the one which really identified for this boundary map area what type of housing was really needed in the area. And as you can see, what was really needed was 375 new housing units that needed to be in the very low to moderate income level. They're needing middle housing of 102 new units and then 59 of the upper income or high income units. This study was for us, and for ACDA in particular, we're looking at potentially maybe using this type of study for the entire bowl of Anchorage. And this would also encourage developers and give them a path of what kind of housing units needed to be developed in the area. So Midtown Plan chapters, I'm not going to go through everything really quick just because of our time, but the big one is what is new for district plans now and required is an all hazard mitigation plan. I heard in this meeting today that the hillside is very worried about fires, and I think some particular areas of our Anchorage are going to be in kind of a tricky spot because of the dry climate right now. But for Midtown, it's pretty good, safe area. There was some small things identified, but nothing out of the ordinary. Our timeline, as I mentioned to you, this has been going on for 18 months. We had our initial team meeting at the end of 2024. Our steering committee has been working with us since March. We have a scheduled planning and zoning work session, April 14th. We're no longer doing that May 5th one. That May 5th one is actually going to be the day that we go in front of planning and zoning for approval and recommendation. And then we're expecting that we're going to be in front of the assembly during the month of June for final approval at the end of June. We're continually having meetings in place. One I just presented to the Chamber of Commerce, and they're writing a supportive letter for the district plan. And then the other one is we're going to be at the first Friday for April. So if you want to join us at the first Friday and at the Anchorage Museum, we'll be there. And I want to remind everybody, this is how you submit your comments. We're encouraging everybody to get them in by April 14th so that it can be viewed for planning and zoning for review. But there is 4 ways, believe it or not, to submit your comments by email, fax, mail, or the online portal, and that's the one I always recommend. You can always get the most information via the ACDA website. We have all of our loaded presentations for viewing, all the documents that go with it, how you can submit your comments. And I would encourage you to read or go to the acd.net, and the last presentation, which was meeting number 3. Meeting number 3 goes over, if you missed that public meeting, it reviews what the team just put over, which was the economic and housing analysis report, the existing conditions report, and then our plan draft. I have been at all the councils. I've submitted our information to your council presidents that have a boundary around the Midtown area. I'm hoping they shared it with their members. And if you did not get that information and how to submit comments or being able to read the plan, I've got it in a nice email format. You can certainly email me directly at mgant@acda.net, and I can send you the information that might be a little easier for you. So I'm going to start the questions. And I know it's been a long night for everybody. So, and that was a very quick overview. That was probably my fastest one yet. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them now.
Thank you, Melinda. Any questions in the room? We have one.
This is Steve Callahan. What's the easterly bounds of the Midtown District?
Say that again?
Easterly bounds of the Midtown District.
I should know this. I believe it's the old Seward Highway.
Old sewer or new sewer?
I believe it's the new CERD.
Okay,
So again, the boundaries are North Star Community Council, Midtown Community Council, and then that Spenard corridor. That's how it follows the map boundaries.
okay. I was just checking to make sure you know the Tudor area is not in it.
Tudor area is in the Midtown Community Council area, sir.
It is?
Yes, sir.
Is it in the district plan?
Yes, it is.
Is? Just one more thing I gotta do, because I know.
Yeah, Midtown goes as far as, I believe, to, Chris, you know this, I believe down to International. I'd have to double check this.
Yeah, our boundaries are International to Fireweed.
Yep.
Seward Highway to Arctic.
We have a question from John.
Melinda, this is John from South Edition. Who did
Hi,
that
John.
study? Hi, who did that study for you that looked at the economic analysis of wages versus specific housing demand for those different categories?
Yeah.
And did you look at the pricing of housing that would fit in those different categories?
Yeah, so that was Shannon Zispain from Agnew and Beck. She's been doing a lot of housing studies for not only ACDA, but also for the municipality of Anchorage. So to answer your question, that was Shannon Zispain from Agnew and Beck. And John, if you want to get more of those details, that report is on the acda.net project page for Midtown. It's a really great report. We've been giving it to a lot of people, and it's quite well done.
Thank you.
We have one last question here from Mike.
Yeah, it's a three-parter, but they're quick. That housing study, that was demand over a decade, correct? 10
What?
years? The housing study you just referred to, was that
No.
housing demand over 10 years or over 1 year, or what time period?
No, that was just done. Was it Mike? Is Mike speaking?
Mike speaking here.
Okay, hi, Mike. No, that housing and economic analysis report was just done.
Yes,
So
but
it was
it's
fine.
projecting, when it says 1,700 housing units, that's projected over what time period?
Oh, thank you. So that particular, I believe it's like 9.5 years.
Okay, thank you.
So basically you've heard the mayor, and this report kind of supports what she's been saying, is the 10,000 homes in 10 years. So I believe it's a 9,400 that we came up with on the housing and economic analysis report for 9,400 homes, but the mayor says 10,000 homes in 10 years.
1,750 or so within the Midtown area.
Mhm.
Thank you. Actually, that's the main question. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Seeing no more questions, I'd
And-
just like to.
Yeah,
as
and
you were
feel
saying.
free, if I know this is a lot to swallow, and if you do have any questions about the process or need clarification, feel free to email me and I would be happy to answer right away.
Hey, Melinda, would you send me the slideshow so I can share it with people?
Absolutely. Is that Ariana?
Yeah.
Yep, I can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation, Melinda. We greatly appreciate it. I hope you
You're
have a
welcome.
good one.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think we have overstayed our time, so I think we should skip the comment period if no one has any comments.
I have
Motion.
one comment, just tomorrow night, West Anchorage Candidates Forum from 5 to 8 at Spenard Rec Center, multi-purpose room, everybody's welcome.
I'd expect trouble. Good at.
Yeah, that's a real reason to attend, right?
Move to adjourn by Sarah and second by Mike. So,
Amazing.
Thank you.
have a good one.
Adjourned.